The sun was shining brightly in Greece, casting its warm glow over the pristine beaches and ancient ruins. It was supposed to be a perfect vacation, filled with celebrations and joy. A 31-year-old woman, whose life had been anything but easy, found herself in this beautiful country with her fiancé, a man of 41 years. They had been together for 2 years, and this trip was meant to be a family vacation, a time to celebrate not just one, but several important milestones: the baptism of their baby, her first birthday, the woman's own birthday, and their anniversary. It was on the plane to Greece that her fiancé had proposed, catching her completely by surprise. The proposal seemed like the start of a new chapter, one filled with hope and happiness. As they landed, his family was there to greet them at the gate, overjoyed to see them and the baby. His parents lived in Greece, and they were eager to spend time with their son, soon-to-be daughter-in-law, and grandchild. But beneath the surface, something was wrong. The woman could feel it, a nagging sense that all was not well. Her intuition, sharp as ever, was sending her warning signals, but she pushed them aside, wanting to focus on the happiness of the moment. After all, they had just gotten engaged. This was supposed to be a time for celebration, not suspicion. Yet, her fiancé was acting strangely, distant and aloof in ways he hadn't been before. It was as if a shadow had fallen over him, one that he couldn't, or wouldn't, shake off. The woman tried to ignore it, tried to convince herself that it was nothing, just nerves from the engagement and the excitement of the trip. But deep down, she knew better. After a particularly lively party, her fiancé fell into a deep sleep. The woman, however, was restless. She couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. So, she did something she hadn't done in months: she went through his phone. This wasn't the first time she had done this. In fact, it was the third. Each time before, she had found something that shattered her trust in him. The first time had been on Valentine's Day of 2024. She had discovered that he had been sexting another woman, a friend from his hometown. The messages had been explicit, and he had even suggested that the woman come over to meet their daughter. Although nothing physical had happened, the betrayal cut deep. The woman had confronted him, and he had been full of tears and apologies, swearing it would never happen again. The second time was on Father's Day of the same year. Once again, she found that he had been sexting another woman, someone he had met at work. They had exchanged messages for weeks, building up a secret relationship behind the woman's back. When she confronted him this time, he broke down again, promising that he had learned his lesson and would never repeat his mistakes. But the damage had been done, and the trust between them was fragile at best. And now, here they were, in Greece, celebrating their engagement, and she was going through his phone for the third time. Her hands trembled as she scrolled through his messages, hoping against hope that this time, she wouldn't find anything. But as she delved deeper, her worst fears were confirmed. She found 3 things that made her heart sink. First, there were nudes, explicit photos that had no place in a man's phone who had just proposed to the love of his life. Second, she found a picture of the very woman he had once wanted to hire as a manager, a woman she had warned him about, a woman who had always made her uneasy. He had assured her that there was nothing to worry about, that this woman was never an issue. And yet, here she was, saved in his phone, her image a reminder of yet another broken promise. Third discovery was the most devastating of all. Among his contacts on WhatsApp, she found a number saved under a male friend's name. But something didn't add up. She noticed that there were multiple calls and messages, all of which were locked with a secret code. Her heart pounded as she typed the number into Cash App, desperate to find out the truth. The result was like a punch to the gut. It was a woman's name, and not just any woman. It was someone she knew. She called the woman immediately, her anger and fear bubbling over. But the woman hung up, only to text her back moments later with a cold, dismissive message: "Take it up with him." The truth was out. Her fiancé had been messaging this woman for 2 months, maintaining a secret relationship while planning a future with her. When she confronted him, he tried to explain it away, claiming that it was just a friendship, that nothing physical had happened. He insisted that the nudes were sent to him by a male friend as a joke, and that he had no idea how the photo of the woman he wanted to hire had ended up in his phone. But the woman knew better. She had heard these excuses before, and they meant nothing to her now. Words that once might have reassured her now felt hollow and meaningless. He had promised her after the last incident that he would change, that he would prove his love and loyalty. But here they were, just a few weeks later, and he had already betrayed her again. The weight of his lies pressed down on her, suffocating her. She was in a foreign country, far from home, surrounded by his family, and now she was faced with a decision that could change everything. Financially, she couldn't afford to leave him right now. She had just moved into his house with her 2 older children and their baby. They had uprooted their lives, moved to a new school district, all in the hopes of building a future together. But that future now seemed like a cruel joke. She didn't want to subject her children to the pain of another broken home, didn't want to put them through the trauma of moving out only to possibly return if she decided to give him another chance. Her older children were already struggling to accept him, still attached to their biological father, from whom she had been separated for 6 years. The thought of dragging them through more uncertainty was almost too much to bear. And yet, the idea of staying with a man who had betrayed her 3 times in just a few short months was unbearable. She didn't want to be devalued, to live in a marriage built on lies and disrespect. She deserved better, and so did her children. But the path forward was murky and filled with doubt. She had been so excited about their engagement, so hopeful for the future. But now, she couldn't even bring herself to wear the ring. The joy she had felt was gone, replaced by a deep sadness that threatened to swallow her whole. How could she return home and face everyone, knowing that the man she was supposed to marry had already broken his vows before they even made it to the altar? Her mind was a whirlwind of questions. Would he ever change? Could she ever trust him again? What was the right thing to do for herself, for her children, for their unborn child? As she sat alone in their hotel room, staring at the ring that now felt like a symbol of broken promises, she realized that she didn't have the answers. All she had was the knowledge that she couldn't keep living like this, caught in a cycle of betrayal and heartache. She needed to make a decision, but it was a decision that felt impossible to make. She knew she had to talk to him, to confront him one last time and lay everything out on the table. But she also knew that words were no longer enough. She needed action, needed proof that he was willing to change, willing to fight for their relationship. And if he couldn't give her that, then she would have to find the strength to walk away, no matter how much it hurt. The days that followed were some of the hardest of her life. She went through the motions of the vacation, trying to keep up appearances for the sake of his family, for the sake of their children. But inside, she was crumbling, her heart breaking a little more with each passing day. When they returned home, the conversations began in earnest. She laid out her terms, made it clear that things couldn't continue the way they had been. He promised, again, that he would change, that he would do whatever it took to make things right. But she had heard it all before, and the words didn't carry the same weight they once had. She decided to give him one last chance, but with conditions. He would need to go to therapy, both individually and as a couple. He would need to cut off all contact with the women he had been involved with, to delete the apps and change his behavior. And most importantly, he would need to prove, through his actions, that he was committed to rebuilding the trust he had so carelessly destroyed. It wasn't an easy decision, and she knew that it wouldn't be a quick fix. There would be days when doubt would creep in, when she would question whether she had made the right choice. But she also knew that she needed to try, if not for herself, then for her children. They deserved a stable home, a family that wasn't torn apart by lies and infidelity. As the weeks turned into months, she watched him closely, looking for signs of change. There were good days and bad days, moments of hope and moments of despair. But slowly, they began to rebuild, brick by brick, the foundation of their relationship. It was a long road, and there were times when she didn't think they would make it. But she held on, driven by the belief that people could change, that love could overcome even the darkest of times. And in the end, that belief would be put to the ultimate test. Whether they would succeed or fail was still uncertain. But one thing was clear, she wouldn't settle for anything less than she deserved. She had been hurt, betrayed, and broken, but she was also strong, resilient, and determined to fight for the life she wanted, for herself and for her children. And as she looked down at the ring on her finger, she knew that whatever happened, she would be okay. She had already survived so much, and she would continue to survive, no matter what the future held.